Hi, and welcome to the Elk Grove House. My name's Annabelle, and I'll be giving you a tour of this house today. As you can see, it's located on the Lincoln Highway. Did you know that James Hall was the founder of Elk Grove? That's actually pretty cool if you think about it. This house has its very own blacksmith shop and San Joaquin Justice Court. This is the folks' home. It is the oldest remaining original residence in the Elk Grove area. This is the path that goes around the old folks' home. It does need some mending, but it is still beautiful. Let's go inside. Inside, we have the kitchen, an old-fashioned wash tub, an old-fashioned stove, and some very, very cool teacups, in my opinion. This is a Victorian English wash station. Before indoor plumbing, they had to use this to wash stuff. And I think it's a very beautiful piece. In the next room is the living room. And some of these chairs in here are very valuable, not just for their looks, but for how old they are. This is kind of like a timeline, but with bills and papers and other stuff. As you can see, there's some bills in there and a congratulations paper or whatever it's called. This is an old-fashioned, very expensive rocking chair. I don't know what that table is for, but still. This chair is very, very expensive, for not just for its looks, but for how old it is. This is the child's crib. It was made by Guy Fawkes for his daughter Mary. She was born in this very house that you see. It's just a random chair. This is a yoke. The Fawkes family came overland in a covered wagon in 1853. This was the oxen yoke used during that trip. This is the upstairs. All of the sleeping places are here. This is the covered wagon that the Fawkes family came to Elk Grove in. This is the inside of it. It's very smushed. This is the Valley Oak gazebo. Let's go inside. Here we are in the ladies' parlor. This is where the ladies hung out, and they would keep the ladies separate from the men. Men's parlor. Inside the men's parlor, they have a gaming table, already set up for a game, a radio station, or I don't actually know what that's called, a fireplace, and a deer's head and some guns, and some beer up there too. This is the bar that they have, and this is a very old piano. Here we are in the Markoffer room. Pam, can you tell us more about this room?
I can. So the Markoffer room was named this because the furniture, the bedroom set, the dressing table, and the dresser were all donated by the Markoffer family. We have some interesting items of interest in the room. So we have pictures of the Markoffer family up on the mantle. And the quilt is actually, it was not a Markoffer quilt, but it was donated by somebody. It was made pre-Civil War, so it's gosh, almost 200 years old. Huh? It's pretty old.
That is pretty old.
The lamp was actually used in a movie and donated by someone else.
That's cool.
So we have a lot of items dating from the period of the 1800s up to the early 1900s in the room. The old shoes and gloves, and of course the women had to wear these cinches. Agreed.
I don't want to wear
we
those.
have an old phonograph and an old treadle sewing machine. So they weren't powered by electricity; they were actually powered by your feet going back and forth. My grandma had one of those.
Mom, it would be way easier to use that one than my one.
It probably is. You can stop and start it a little bit faster. But yes, the Markoffers lived in, you have the history timeline, so you can see when the actual dates the Markoffers lived in the house. But Florence married into the family, and so, yes, she did live here.
Hello again, Pam. Can you tell us about this section of the ballroom?
All right. In the ballroom, we've set up a history of Elk Grove from 2000 BC to 2000 AD. 2000 BC, Native Americans, the Miwok, were living here. So we have this beautiful display of items, some history, creation story of the valley, some games, some hands-on, some grinding things that people can do. And we go up to 2000 AD because that's when Elk Grove became a city. So a lot of interesting facts we have on the wall. So we have periods after the Miwok period. We have the Spanish colonial period because Spain took control of this part of the United States. And then the Mexican period. Mexico took control after Spain. So you've probably had that in history class, yeah. And so a little bit of information. The Bear Flag Revolt happened, and I don't know if you learned that the Bear Flag Revolt started right down here on the river.
Really?
Yeah. So Murphy was one of the first settlers in the area, and he had a place along the Cosumnes River and the Monterey Trail, which is now Highway 99. And so the General Fremont what came and instigated with Sutter how to take control of this particular area and create their own state. So they revolted. The Spanish had, or the Mexicans had brought up some horses, and they were at Murphy's Corral. And so they went down there and let them all out, a bunch of the Californios. And that started the Bear Flag Revolt. They then went down to Sonoma and finished the revolution, and voila, we became a state. So after the Mexican period, we have the early settlers, so talking about James Hall coming in 1850, and other settlers that followed, Harvey and his brother Joseph Kerr. Interesting, we have school, right?
Yeah.
And they had a lot of property here and, farmed and ranched. So then we go down, I don't know if we want to flip around and... So this particular trunk is an item of interest because that came across the country with James Hall.
Really?
And yeah, that's one of the few possessions we have. It might be the only possession we have of his. So that's an interesting piece. We have some clothes worn during the early period. And we go on to talk about how the railroad. So actually the house here was the first Elk Grove. James Hall coined it Elk Grove. And then Buckner built a hotel, another stage stop, where Walmart is. And that was called Buckner's. And then a few years after James Hall sold this, Buckner called his place Elk Grove and had a post office there. So that was the second Elk Grove. In the 1868, the railroad was put through, but a mile east of Buckner's place on the Kerr property. So eventually the town moved a mile east, and now we have Old Town, and that became the third and final Elk Grove. So an interesting piece of information, I think. So the railroad really changed things. By then, there were a lot of farmers and ranchers around the place, and they needed, merchandise. So the town grew up around the railroad. There was a store put in the railroad station and a post office, and then eventually, a lot of other different businesses. So you'll see that we point out a lot of the businesses, the first theater, the first barber shop. We have the barber chair over there from that first barber shop.
I took a picture of it.
And, the cow palace, which was interesting because the ranchers would bring the cows there to sell for market. But then they would turn that into the theater. That was the first theater in Elk Grove. So it took two men 45 minutes to change the theater from an auction yard to a theater.
Really?
Yeah. So they would lower a curtain and put out the chairs, and then they would have a theater. We have a picture of the opening night there. And eventually the theater moved down on Elk Grove Boulevard. And, then housing developed, and we have all the developments that in Elk Grove eventually we expanded, became a city.
I'm interested in that. Do you know what that is?
That is an interesting, it's a buckle of some kind. So this was found along the Cosumnes River, and it's believed that when you identify it, it actually was from a military.
Really?
So those buckles were used sometimes on the horse straps, sometimes on the men's straps, and sometimes as a belt buckle. So we're not quite sure. The person that found it thinks it was part of a belt buckle, but it actually came from, we believe, from when General Fremont was here with his men, because it's from that period of time, and that's who was here.
That's really cool.
It is cool.
The kitchen. Inside the kitchen, we have a tall cabinet with fruits and vegetables and other things. We have a old telephone, a old fridge. This is actually very old. A sink and another cabinet with a bunch of stuff that they would actually use in there. Another oh, it's a stove. A stove. Okay. This is where they would wash their clothes. They would put it in water and rub it on that thing that you saw. Thank you for coming. They will gladly accept donations if you have any.